They have no idea they are doing it. They genuinely want love and healthy relationships, but they keep ending up single and confused about why their partnerships always fall apart. If you have a pattern of relationships that start beautifully but slowly deteriorate into conflict and breakups, your zodiac sign might be unconsciously sabotaging your love life. What you are about to discover will reveal the hidden relationship patterns that certain signs use to destroy their own happiness without even realizing they are doing it. Stay until the end, because recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking the cycle and finally building the lasting love you want. These signs do not set out to ruin their relationships. In fact, they often put tremendous effort into making their partnerships work. But they have unconscious psychological patterns that create toxic dynamics, push partners away, and ultimately destroy the very connections they are trying to build. Understanding these patterns is crucial, because most of these signs blame their partners for relationship failures without recognizing their own contribution to the problems. Number 5 is Cancer. Cancers destroy relationships through emotional manipulation disguised as love and care. They create dependency rather than partnership, turning their romantic connections into parent-child dynamics that suffocate their partners and breed resentment over time. Here is how Cancer relationship destruction works. They start by being the most caring, nurturing, and attentive partner you could imagine. They anticipate your needs, remember everything important to you, and seem to live for making you happy. This feels incredible in the beginning because everyone wants to feel that cherished and cared for. But slowly, this nurturing becomes controlling and manipulative. Cancers unconsciously train their partners to become emotionally dependent on them by creating situations where you need their care, support, and emotional guidance. They solve problems for you that you could handle yourself. They make decisions for you under the guise of protecting you, and they gradually take over emotional responsibility for your well-being. The Cancer mind genuinely believes that taking care of everyone around them is how love works. They do not realize that constantly rescuing people creates learned helplessness and resentment. They think they are being loving when they are actually being controlling, and they interpret any resistance to their care as proof that their partner does not appreciate them. What destroys Cancer relationships is their emotional manipulation through guilt and obligation. When their partners try to establish independence or boundaries, Cancers respond by acting hurt, abandoned, or unappreciated. They use phrases like, "after everything I have done for you," or "I guess my love," does not matter to make their partners feel guilty for having normal autonomy needs. This creates relationships where partners feel trapped between independence and loyalty, ultimately choosing freedom and leaving the Cancer confused about why their love was not enough. Number 4 is Leo. Leos destroy relationships by turning their partners into audiences rather than equal participants. They unconsciously create dynamics where everything revolves around their needs, their achievements, their emotions, and their experiences, leaving no space for their partner to be seen, heard, or valued. Here is the Leo relationship destruction pattern. They are incredibly charismatic and generous in the beginning, making you feel special and chosen. They shower you with attention, gifts, and grand romantic gestures that make you feel like the most important person in their world. This creates intense initial bonding and makes you feel lucky to be with someone so confident and dynamic. But gradually, the relationship becomes entirely about supporting Leo ego and achievements. Conversations focus on their work, their goals, their problems, their social life. When you try to share your own experiences, they quickly redirect attention back to themselves or offer advice that makes them the expert and you the student. The Leo mind genuinely believes that their life is more interesting and important than other people's lives. They do not consciously decide to monopolize attention. They simply assume that others are naturally fascinated by their experiences and want to hear about them constantly. They interpret partner attempts to share equally in conversation as boring or irrelevant distractions from more important topics. What destroys Leo relationships is their need for constant admiration and validation that exhausts their partners. They require regular praise, attention, and acknowledgement of their specialness. Partners gradually realize they are performing emotional labor, constantly celebrating Leo achievements. boosting Leo ego, supporting Leo dreams, while receiving little recognition or support for their own needs and goals. This creates relationships where partners feel invisible and unimportant, ultimately leaving to find connections where they can be seen and valued as individuals. Number 3 is Virgo. Virgos destroy relationships through relentless criticism disguised as helpfulness and care. They unconsciously train their partners to feel inadequate and defensive by constantly pointing out flaws and offering improvement suggestions, creating relationships based on judgment rather than acceptance. Here is how Virgo relationship sabotage works. They begin by seeming incredibly attentive to details about you and your life. They notice things other people miss, remember important information, and offer helpful suggestions about everything from your health to your career. This initially feels like someone who really cares about your well-being and wants to help you become your best self. But this attention gradually becomes critical analysis of everything you do wrong. Virgos unconsciously keep mental scorecards of their partner mistakes, inefficiencies, and areas for improvement. They offer suggestions about your diet, your exercise routine, your work habits, your social skills, your appearance, your decision-making processes. What they think is helpful guidance feels like constant judgment to their partners. The Virgo mind genuinely believes that pointing out problems and offering solutions is a form of love. They think they are helping their partners grow and improve, not realizing that constant criticism creates insecurity and defensive behavior. They interpret partner resistance to their suggestions as laziness or lack of commitment to self-improvement. What destroys Virgo relationships is the perfectionist pressure they create. Partners gradually realize they can never meet Virgo standards because there is always something else to fix or improve. This creates relationships where spontaneity dies, self-confidence decreases, and partners feel like they are constantly being evaluated rather than loved for who they are. Eventually, partners leave to find relationships where they can be accepted without constant improvement projects. Number 2 is Scorpio. Scorpios destroy relationships through possessive intensity that suffocates their partners and creates toxic jealousy dynamics. They unconsciously treat love as ownership and view their partner connections with other people as threats to be eliminated or controlled. Here is the Scorpio relationship destruction cycle. They create incredibly intense emotional and physical connections that feel deeper and more meaningful than anything their partners have experienced before. This intensity is intoxicating and makes partners feel like they have found their soulmate. The depth of connection creates strong bonding and makes other relationships seem shallow by comparison. But this intensity becomes possessive control over time. Scorpios want complete emotional and psychological access to their partners while keeping themselves mysterious and private. They ask detailed questions about your day, your feelings, your relationships, your past, but share little about their own internal world. They become suspicious of your friendships, your work relationships, your family connections. The Scorpio mind sees love as complete merging and total commitment. They do not understand healthy relationship boundaries because they want to know everything and be everything to their partner. They interpret normal independence needs as signs of betrayal or lack of love. They believe that true love means choosing your partner over all other relationships and activities. What destroys Scorpio relationships is their need for total control and possession disguised as deep love. They create relationships where partners feel monitored, questioned, and isolated from other important connections. Partners gradually realize they have lost their independence and individual identity, ultimately leaving to reclaim their autonomy and freedom. Number 1 is Aries. Aries destroy relationships through selfish impulsivity disguised as passion and spontaneity. They unconsciously make relationship decisions based only on their immediate desires without considering their partner needs, feelings, or preferences, creating partnerships where only one person matters. Here is how Aries relationship destruction works. They pursue relationships with incredible passion and energy, making you feel desired and excited about building something together. Their spontaneity and enthusiasm create fun, adventurous experiences that feel more alive and dynamic than other relationships. This initial phase is thrilling and addictive. but their impulsivity becomes selfishness as the relationship develops. Aries make major decisions without consulting their partners, change plans without warning, pursue their own interests without considering relationship impact, and expect partners to adapt to their choices without complaint or input. They treat relationships like solo adventures, where their partner is expected to follow rather than equally participate in decision-making. The Aries mind operates on immediate gratification and personal desire satisfaction. They do not consciously decide to be selfish. They simply act on their impulses without considering consequences for other people. They interpret partner requests for consideration and communication as attempts to control their freedom and spontaneity. What destroys Aries relationships is their inability to compromise or sacrifice for partnership goals. Partners gradually realize they are always accommodating Aries' needs while receiving no consideration for their own preferences and desires. This creates relationships where partners feel unimportant and unheard, ultimately leaving to find connections where their needs matter equally. If you recognize your sign in this list, awareness is the first step to change. These patterns are unconscious, which means you can learn to recognize them and choose different behaviors that create healthy relationship dynamics instead of destroying them. Have you noticed these patterns in your own relationships or relationships you have witnessed? Share your insights in the comments and help others recognize these destructive cycles. If you want to learn how to transform these destructive patterns into relationship strengths, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Understanding your unconscious relationship patterns is the key to finally building the lasting love you deserve.